This book takes you back to the root of the words, because the meaning of words haven't changed. Some people speak a weird language. There's no such thing as a weird language, because you have the words in this language. So they're not there. You just don't know where they came from. But these words from ancient days are affecting people today. People are going to have to make a research in words. I know I'm representing music. Music is a language, and my music speaks of everything. So in order to understand the music, you would have to know some of the things that I have studied, which help me to project myself as I am doing. For instance, if you study something about Bach or Brahms and Beethoven, you need to study their life too. So actually, I don't consider myself as having a life, but I do consider myself as having studied. So therefore, you need to know some of the books that I studied, because a lot of things that I found out, people don't know about it. So we come down to words again, as to how they're affecting people today. Take the word convict. Convicts get convicted. And it's also moves over into conviction. Now when you get to that word, it moves somewhere else. Because a person can have a conviction about something, and they got an idea about it. You see? So now, therefore, when you have words that move two ways on you, then you have to be careful. Because here you have this word convict, convicted, conviction. Now this word conviction moves over if you have an idea of something, you got an impression of something. You have knowledge concerning something. Got an impression, moves over into image, a reflection. Well, reflection. A person can reflect on something. They're thinking about it. The reflection moves over into image. All these things affect people. It doesn't matter whether you know about them or not. It's just like if you're out on a lake and somebody throws a large stone in the lake. It doesn't matter whether you know about it or not. It's going to affect the boat you're in. It'll do something to the lake. Now, conviction, idea, impression, reflection, image, knowledge. Ideas of thought too. Now when you get to this word thought, put an H on it, and you got a word that the ancient Egyptians used. You didn't get away from that word. It's still here today. Now this word can move over into, that's where the word thought came from. This word moves over into two things, like the oath. An oath is a word, a promise, something of salt. So now this is affecting people, this ancient Egyptian word. The best thing to do is to get in some ancient Egyptian books, study up on Egyptian words, because they're affecting you. They're affecting your life, or your death, or whatsoever. It's about you. Now that's just one word. Now there are many other words. Some words are dead words, you might say. They go a certain way and then they stop. They're just like streets. When you go down the street, you can keep on going on that street all the way to New York. Highway can lead you all the way there. You get on another street, and then you run into a dead end. That's the way words are. So words are set up like on a certain formula. All religions are set up a certain way with a set of words, just like the New Testament. It's based on words. They said the word was made flesh, so that everything is about the word. But it's a set formula. You have the Lord's Prayer set up a certain way. Forgive us as we forgive our enemies. But if you don't forgive your enemies, then you're not going to get forgiven. So if you sit up and you say something like that, that's your creed. Something that happens to you, and some person do something to you, you don't forgive them, and then you do something wrong, you want forgiveness, you're not going to get it. So then you have to be careful what kind of prayers you're praying, because it's a very serious thing. It's just with humans. Also, like if you plant a tomato seed in the ground, that's what you're going to get back. Now, if you go out and say a particular formula of words, even if you just pretend it doesn't make any difference, you're going to get those words back. So the whole thing about it, a lot of people on this planet are saying words that they don't mean. Maybe words for money, or words for pleasure, for other things. But it's a very dangerous game to play, to fool around with words, because words, just like material that you take to build a house, and however you use that material in a certain way, the house is going to shape to be that way. Now you can give but it said good people. That left them out because good people referred to the white people who set it up, and no black people signed it. So when you don't sign something, then you're not part of it. They were in an unfortunate condition where they couldn't sign it, but that doesn't make any difference. You have laws upon this planet, and man have to have some kind of laws, because otherwise it's going to complete chaos with all these people on this planet. Without some kind of laws, even if they're bad laws, it would be complete chaos. So then you have a particular set of laws. Now, you take like the so-called, the Bible. People talk about gospel. That's another word you have to watch, because it comes from, you look at a good etymology, it'll tell you that the word wasn't originally that way. It was written like this: God's spell. Now, you know what a spell is? It's something like a charm, a curse, or something like voodoo. But that's what it says: God's spell, God's spell, God's spell. So then all you have to do is to get a good etymology. Look in there. If you can get black as etymology, you'd be all right, because black as etymology got a lot of things in that. It's very concise, and but it's published in England. England has a lot of books that you can't get in America. France too, Germany too. The wisdom is scattered all over the world. The Chinese have some, the Japanese have some. Everyone has part of the wisdom. Therefore, unless you go to every country and read every book, you never know anything. Unless someone comes that's sent by the one who messed all the books up anyway, and was taught by them, which I was taught by the one who messed the books up. So therefore, all I have to do is get a book, I look in there, and what I already know is in there. The only reason I'm doing that because I don't want people to think that I'm talking. I want to be a ruler on this planet or anything. I want to be a god or anything, because God made people, and I'd be ashamed to say I made them. So they can't get this thing to say that I'm God, because it embarrasses me a lot. I don't like to get embarrassed. Now here's a book called Ark of Bones by Hank Dumas. Now Hank Dumas is one of the most unique writers that America's ever produced. And he was supposedly killed by a policeman. He's done a lot of things for black people. He's done a lot of things in this country. He went to the army, and he was teaching at government experimental school. So when you have a country like that, where someone really is doing something worthwhile, and they get shot out by a policeman or by anybody, it's really ridiculous. It doesn't make sense for someone who's irreplaceable like him. Nobody like him ever existed in the white or black race to have to meet that kind of fate and be cut off so soon. Because, so you see, you have a lot of things come to people, and they don't protect things. This is one of the things they didn't protect. Here's two books out by him, Poetry for My People. When you read this, you can see that he really loves black people, and he's writing about them from down on the bottom. Here's another about stories about black people using dialect and other things that are close to them. But anyway, that's the person that you should investigate his works. Henry Dumas, Ark of Bones, and Poetry for My People. This book is just, the reason I mention it, because there's music in his stories, and there's music in his poetry. So when I'm talking about music, I'm not just talking about musician playing an instrument. Anything is music. If you take like a beautiful picture that an artist paints, that's music. Anything that has symmetry to it, and when you look at it, it makes you feel it, is music. Because that's what music is all about, feeling. Now, look up the word hue, because some folks call themselves humans. Because I said you got something called man, and you got something called human. And then you got words like that. If you're a human, you need to know what you are, 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 to know what you are.